Manduru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I'll be very fast and brief in my contribution. I've heard Senator Cherargei about CAS. And actually, it's good that he has confirmed we have turned away CAS in our previous meetings. And I've said actually in my statement, there is a possibility of actually sending CAS to this House. And that is what we are going to disallow. So I don't see if there is anything that is out of order. And number two, when he quotes Article 153, it's very clear that the cabinet ministers are going to appear before the committee of the whole or committee of different departments. That is okay. We have no problem with that. But the only time that we are going to challenge is when we have those ministers to come and sit with us in this House. And that is very clear from my side. The other point I wanted to raise, Senator Cherargei, you are eating into my time, which I think the Speaker needs to protect me. The issues of PPP. Mr. Speaker, as many of my colleagues have said, there was no mention of issues of corruption in the address of the President. What killed this country is corruption. And I know very well, for the last 2 terms I've been in this House, counties have been grappling with the issues of PPP. And a very good example, even national government, the issues of mess. They first started with PPP. And when they realized PPP is not going to work, they dropped it and went to contract, an agreement. PPP, if we are not carefully going to see how we can handle or come up with a proper strategy, that is a source of corruption. And I hope Kenyans are fully aware of what is happening and what will happen to PPP if we don't have proper structures in place. And number two, counties, they don't even have capacity to run PPP. But unfortunately, most of them, they end up actually starting PPP. Along the way, they drop. So PPP, if we are not very careful, Kenyans are not going to get value for their money. And also, it's a source of corruption. If Kenya Kwanza is ready to deal with corruption, we have no problem with the PPP. And I don't know where they are going to get money to run PPP when they are crying there is no money in the country. Mr. Speaker, the other point I wanted to raise is on a Hustler Fund. After election, every leader comes on board, they introduce a fund. We have Youth Fund, which we have seen actually as it has not benefited Kenyan youths. It's actually failing today, if I'm not wrong. Many of our youths are jobless. Many of our youths have dropped out of school. We don't know what Youth Funds is doing in this country. Number two, we have seen Women Fund. Majority of our mothers are hustling in the market, everywhere. Yeah? So when we talk of Hustler Fund, and it's good to define what hustler is in this country, and I hope it is not rewarding those who have politically supported certain quotas, 80% of this country are hustlers. 80%. We want to see how this Hustler Fund is going to be introduced, how it's going to help Mama Mboga, Boda Boda, Jua Kali, and everybody else. But the challenge is, where are we going to get these funds from? Are we going to collapse the rest of the funds? Or are we going to create another independent fund? Are Kenyans ready for this Hustler Fund? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. Mr. Speaker, the other issue I wanted to raise is on issues of, Mr. Speaker, the issue of Oversight Fund and CDF. Oversight Fund, CDF. If you see CDF, it's financing security, financing schools, and bursary. The same thing national government is doing. The same thing county government is doing. Is it really helping Kenyans? It's not. Yeah? I come from a county where there is insecurity. People are fighting each other after every 1 week. It doesn't pass. And yet, a member of parliament is given money for insecurity. They end up doing nothing. Yeah? And we are saying CDF is doing a lot of work. Why can't we collapse these projects? Mr. Speaker, I beg you to give me 2 minutes because there was point of orders that actually disrupted my debate. Please, I beg you. There is a very important point I want to drive home, Mr. Speaker. So the issues of CDF, our kids, especially the ones from pastoral areas, the animals are dead, the drought is hitting, kids are not going to school, kids are dying of malnutrition, grown-ups are dying. Surely, what are we doing about them? Yeah? People stood here and talked about drought intervention. What drought intervention? In my county, they were given 600 bags of rice and 360 bags of maize to each sub-county. Surely, that is 1 meal for a day, which is not enough for everybody. As my colleagues have said, and I'll say it here, pastoralist communities are treated in this country as a second-class citizen. Why can't Kenya Kwanza allocate